Hello everyone, this is Eflex and welcome back to another A Producer's Approach video. In this video we're going to be looking at Haywyre's song Insight, the live performance. So if you guys haven't watched my videos in the past, I basically break down these videos into three separate sections. I have an intro backstory section, after that I have a breakdown analysis section, and then at the end I have an outro section. So this is Haywyre's song Insight, and this I would say is the live performance that really made the live performance structure for Oblivion and Temanite kind of the main type of structure for live performance videos, and maybe other artists that copy Haywyre, I guess, in this sense. But this video kind of showcases that Nord Stage 2 keyboard, that like red keyboard that Haywyre uses in most of his videos going forward. And you know, Temanite and Oblivion both use a Nord. I think a Temanite uses a stage 2 and Oblivion uses a stage 3, or Temanite could also use a stage 3. Can't remember exactly, but I know those two use the Nord stage keyboards. And in this video, this is the one song that really made that kind of the staple almost keyboard to do these live performances with. The guy Jay Weiss, I think, did piano covers using a Nord as well, but Haywyre is really the one to use the Nord in the capacity of a live performance video and in live sets as well. So this song Insight is on the album 021 Perspective. That is the Monstercat album that's, you know, a little bit later in Haywyre's time. 018, he had his song Ever Changing, which is amazing. If he actually had a live performance video of that song, now that would be one heck of a thing when it first was released on Monstercat. But this song is on a pretty good album. Like, a lot of artists were solidifying their styles by this time period in around 2015. And this was the first live performance video after Smooth Criminal that really took off as well. And GoPro actually used this live performance video as one of their marketing campaigns for their GoPro cameras. So that was really cool because at that time, you know, non-notable, not to say non-notable, but like Monstercat wasn't really super notable yet. Like, they were just starting to climb up in the scene, and then like a big company like GoPro used this song for their actual video, promotional video for their product. So that's pretty crazy. I mean, in hindsight, that's kind of when you slightly know you've made it to a bigger stage than just the promotional channels on YouTube, when an actual company uses your performance video as their marketing or promotional tool, almost, in a sense. So anyways, this is Haywyre's song Insight, the live performance, and I'll let you guys listen to this song and we'll break it down from here. All right, so the beginning, he started the metronome, and that's a common metronome sound that you hear, at least in Ableton, because I use the DAW, or Digital Audio Workstation Ableton, and I use that metronome a lot to synchronize different audio clips and stuff like that. So I know that metronome sound is a very Ableton Live preset sound. And then right from the get-go, you hear his piano chords playing. You hear the percussion kind of drum roll in, and it sounds like the percussion's mostly like a drum roll with like a snare, which is really cool. And you hear some other sounds that are layered along, like pads, and I think a synth as well when he's playing the piano chords as well. It's not just the piano itself. There's a couple other sounds playing along with it, but that percussion is really cool because it's almost like a drum line drum roll, just kind of introducing the song. So that is a really cool intro. I really like the metronome intro. I think he did the same thing in Smooth Criminal as well. So let's keep going. All right, right, so that part's really cool. It almost switches to like a halftime rhythm. You have this sound that almost sounds like an infomercial sound, but it has this really kind of jazzy kind of feel to it. So he's kind of playing more jazzy kind of organ type chords on his Nord Stage 2 keyboard, which is really cool. That sound kind of makes it feel a little bit more jazzy, almost a little bit like elevator music in a sense. Kind of those sounds remind me of that, but elevator music kind of mixed with jazz, like in terms of how that sound design sounds. But it sounds really cool. It's really smooth and clean. And the percussion is super clean. As I said, it's a halftime rhythm, and there's some hi-hats thrown in there, but the percussion used is like really soft, so it's not super hard-hitting like a dubstep song. It sounds softer and a little more organic. And then he also has the kind of permutate vocoded vocal chop starting to come in. So I'll talk a little bit more about that in a little bit. All right, so that part was really cool. There's like kind of a vocal phrase as the vocoded vocals kind of come in. They're kind of chops, but they're like different words and different phrases kind of chopped up instead of like an actual vocal chop of sometimes just one word or letter. This is like separate sections kind of a vocal sample, just kind of spread out a little bit to be a little bit more like a vocal chop where it ends and fills in certain spaces at the ends of phrases and stuff like that, which is really cool. And then the kind of bass line he's playing along with like that bass kind of organ almost sound. There's a lot of low end, so that's really cool as well. And then you kind of have the focus on just the vocoded vocals, what he's playing on the keyboard, that synth, and then you kind of have just focus on the percussion, which is really nice. Gives a focus on those three parts. So let's keep going because the piano was just introduced back in. All right, it's really cool in that section because he has the piano playing, and then he also has a pluck synth playing that same exact kind of chord and progression that he's playing on the piano. So those two sounds paired together are really nice, and they just give like a little bit more accent almost to the piano, like it's plucking along, but he's actually just playing a piano sound along with that kind of fast pluck. So now he's going into his more traditional lead sound that you heard in like Smooth Criminal. So let's keep going. All right, so that essentially was the build-up. It's a more traditional in the sense of a snare build-up, but there wasn't really any VFX. It was, again, all really built up with the progression of what he's playing on the keyboard and the synth kind of progressing, just kind of playing an arpeggiated kind of lead sound, and he's kind of arpeggiating that lead sound to slowly go up, and then he goes up another octave as the snare is building up. So that's a really cool one. And then there's like the snare kind of stops, and then he has a breath of air in a sense where the percussion stops, but then he kind of ties in that introduction to the drop section with the lead he's playing on the keyboard, which is a very unique sound design sound to Haywyre. So I always love that lead sound, and let's keep going. All right, so that was the first drop. It's totally insane. So the rhythm is really cool. The percussion's a little bit heavier. Still in halftime rhythm, so it's like kick on 1, snare on 3. It's a bigger, punchier snare, a bigger kick, and some hi-hats still rolling through, so it's not as soft as in the intro. The lead sounds really good. It's really unique in a higher octave, so then it kind of gives the space to that bass sound, and that bass sounds really cool. That's probably my favorite part of the drops, is actually the bass sound, because it's like so massive, huge, kind of distorted and dirty sounding, but then it almost sounds like a wub, and then there's some like either staccato notes or just kind of staccato notes to accent kind of like when it almost sounds like it's glitching out towards the end of each phrase of the chord progression, which is really a nice effect on the chord progression for the bass line, and it just gives it this like fullness feeling on that bass line. So there must be like some reverb delay and just some like boosts in like maybe the mid section or something of the song, because like, man, that's just a huge kind of like bass area along tied with the sub, so like all the sub bass and the bass lines are all tied together to make it sound really full, along with the lead just kind of playing on the top, which is really nice because there isn't as much going on in this song as I would say in Smooth Criminal. At least in this drop, there's not like different vocal chops in the background, so you can kind of hear and focus a lot more on the core sounds happening, like the bass line, the lead, and the percussion. So that's really cool. And I always like the piano sweeps, so let's keep going. All right, so I just wanted to point out in the before this part, there's kind of this sound that goes dun dun dun. That's like a unique kind of sound design sound that Haywyre made. I'm not exactly sure what that is. I know it's probably a synth he made playing two different notes, just kind of oscillating back and forth, and just kind of going back and forth and creating that sound, which is a really cool sound that he used. And it's really cool in this part when he starts playing the piano, because he's playing the piano, and there also sounds like there's almost an acoustic guitar layer right below the piano, or in the same frequency range, playing the exact same thing he's playing on the keys on this keyboard. So it's just really cool because like the piano sound and the guitar sound, or the acoustic guitar sound, are both playing the same notes, which is really nice because both sounds really complement each other, even though they might be in the same frequency range. Like they still shine through and complement each other and make the sound fuller and just sound cleaner. So it just sounds more acoustic and kind of almost real, like in that sense. So that's all I noticed. And then the percussion is about to come in, so let's keep going. All right, so that was the kind of the piano solo break section, which was really cool. You really got to see Haywyre's skills again on the keys, which is always amazing to see. Again, yeah, there's that acoustic guitar playing on the bottom. There was also a pad introduced, and then it's the same type of rhythm in terms of like a halftime rhythm for this percussion. But I also want to mention that percussive rhythm also is pretty similar to, I guess you would hear in like chill trap music, or I guess even in trap music, but like the way it's structured with the halftime, with the kind of fluttering hi-hats, and the hi-hats that he used, at least in that part, remind me a lot of like chill trap or trap music. But this song is totally different because like the piano aspect almost takes like a whole jazzy element and puts it in the song, which is really cool. And it just complements the guitar and that pad sound playing in the background really nicely with that percussion. So what can you say? Haywyre's a genius, and he's just the keys master. So let's keep going. All right, so that was crazy. I was gonna stop it a little bit earlier, but I just wanted you guys to see that full kind of keys part and like him soloing in this build up to play out. And also I want to watch it as well. But what I noticed in this section is the piano is playing again, and then there's that kind of pluckish sound in the bottom, and then there's like an 8-bit sound slowly building up. I think it's that synth that he had playing along in some of the earlier parts of the song. It's kind of like in the background, slowly fading in. It's a little bit more noticeable because it's not a more organic sound, it's like a more synthetic sound, so at least to me it was a little bit more noticeable. And then after that, it was hard for me to keep track of what was going on because like the snare buildup starts, but then he's just going crazy on the keys and leading everything in. And in this part of the video, it's just really cool how he transitions from the keys, and then he presses the button on his APC 40 to kind of transition into the synth sound. And that's kind of when the snare kind of hits its final point, and then he can kind of play and then lead into the drop. So it's just really cool how this kind of build up and break section was different than the first build up and break section. So there's some variation there, which is always really nice. And we'll watch the rest of this to the outro, and then I'll just explain more about the song there. So let's finish the song. All right, so that was Haywyre's song Insight, his live performance, and we'll go back a little bit. So that drop is pretty similar to the first drop. The structure was pretty much the same. The sound design was pretty similar, and nothing too different there. And the way it outroed was pretty nice. The only thing I noticed was like the keyboard sweep in this drop, which I don't think I noticed as much in the first drop, him doing kind of like a keyboard sweep like that. But overall, I would say that part is probably the most consistent in terms of like in terms of structure. Like that's like the most similar to the first drop, which is like those two parts are the only two parts of the song which I would say were similar within this whole song, because the other elements are pretty different. So anyways, this is Haywyre's song Insight, his live performance video. And you know, Haywyre is just a genius, as you see again. You could see how he's kind of the kind of quote unquote OG and kind of the pioneer of this style of live performance video with the Nord Stage 2 and different keyboards together. And he's really the only one to pull off the kind of glitch hop and jazz kind of combination, or just EDM and jazz. Like his style is a little bit different, where he incorporates a lot of jazz type influence into EDM, whereas Temanite's a little bit more of like electro house and dubstep on the keyboards. So he represents that, and then Oblivion's more of like glitch hop and I almost want to say future bass. So they all kind of take different elements in their live performance videos, but at the end of the day, it's kind of the same kind of structure on the same keyboards. But overall, this song, I just want to point out the great points of it. Haywyre's a genius on the keyboard. I mean, there's no doubt about that. The structure in the song is really good. I really like how almost minimal it is, even though it's not really minimal. Like he didn't have as many sounds in the song to have it really be overcrowded, so you can really focus on all the different layers and parts within this song, which is really cool. I always like to kind of pinpoint certain sounds and just kind of figure out you know, what he used and what's kind of like layered within the sound. The permutate vocals are always cool. Those vocoder vocal chops and vocal phrases are always cool. The piano solos are insane. The lead sound is also really cool, and that bass sound, man, in the drops, whew, that hits so hard, man. Like, oh man, it's like a total different contrast between like the, you know, lighter kind of more organic piano and like acoustic guitar type sound, and then you have this like totally like synthetic electronic kind of huge drop with this kind of dirty bass on the bottom, which is like crazy. And then the soft percussion is really nice in the break sections, and that big percussion in the drops is really good. So overall, you could tell like the different GoPro perspectives, because when you're looking at the keys, he has the GoPro on his head, whereas you see the camera view of his face, then that's the GoPro kind of in front of his face, off in the distance. So overall, this is like one of the best live performance videos to really kick off the whole live performance video format and structure from artists like Temanite, Oblivion, and many other artists that will probably do this in the future. This might be the new way that live performance videos go going forward, and certain artists, you know, might copy this structure, which, you know, isn't bad. I always enjoy watching it, and doing this type of video is not that easy. It looks easy, but I will tell you it is not easy. You really have to know your technical programming, and you have to know your software really well, and you just have to know the elements of how to play all these elements kind of in a live sense, but through an electronic source, because I personally don't know how I would do a live performance video like this with some of my own music, because there's so many different layers in the song that you almost have to skinny it down, almost like he did for Insight, to have different, or not really different, but more minimalistic sounds, so you could kind of play certain sounds live. You have to pick and choose, I would imagine, which sounds you have to play live on the keyboard. So this concept is not that easy, but I do appreciate when artists do create videos like this, and I know all the effort and attention to detail that goes into making these types of videos. So anyways, I hope you guys like this video. Please comment, like, subscribe. Definitely helps when you guys, you know, at least like or comment on the video. Subscribe if you want, that helps too, but I really do enjoy trying to check to see if there's like multiple likes or multiple comments on videos. And overall, if you guys haven't listen to Haywyre's music, definitely listen to his other music, and I hope to do more of his videos in the future, more of his live performance stuff. And I hope you guys enjoyed, and, you know, have a little brief history lesson on how the structure of these live performance videos, like where it pretty much started, I would say, is Haywyre song Insight. So the Haywyre kind of live performance format, as kind of what I call it, in my opinion. So anyways, hope you guys like the video, and I'll see you guys in the next A Producer's Approach video. All right, have a good one, everyone. Peace.